Welcome to Homeschooling Down South. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kat. We're two Southern homeschooling mamas sharing real talk, resources, and inspiration for life and learning in the Southeast.
Each week, we'll chat with inspiring voices in the homeschool community, highlight must-see nature spots and field trip gems, and share resources from across the region.
Whether you're new to homeschooling or a seasoned pro, pull up a chair and join us as we celebrate the joy, freedom, and community of homeschooling down south.
Welcome back, everybody. Super excited to talk about our event today because this is something we both experienced for the first time together.
Yes.
And I also feel like both of us really kind of have a shared love for baseball and, the Braves. And we both have these experiences at Turner Field and Truist Park and all the things. So
it was really cool in the spring. A local homeschool group that we're both a part of. Neither of us have any role in managing that group, but the woman who runs everything for it, she coordinated for us attending the education day with the Atlanta Braves at Truist Stadium. And it's something that they do on a regular basis, but this was our first time going. It's not a homeschool specific day, but it was just a blast.
Yeah, it was so fun. And we actually saw several people from where we used to live. They were there with another homeschool group. And there obviously were public school and private school groups, but it was really cool to see the homeschool community specifically showing out. I mean, it was a big event. And I was chatting with a sweet lady at the Braves, and she said they've actually been doing this for about 4 years.
Oh, wow.
The science
Okay.
education day specifically, but that they've had some version of an education day since the Turner Field days.
Oh, really? So we were talking about, in case you're not familiar, the Atlanta Braves were at Turner Field for a very long time. And they moved. When did they move, Kayla?
The Battery, which is where the stadium exists, was opened up in 2014, but the actual first game was not played at Truist Park until 2017.
So this is Major League Baseball park. And just in case for anyone who's listening, not familiar with the Braves are our Major League Baseball team here in Atlanta. And where we live, we're about an hour from Atlanta. And so we get to benefit from the things that are happening there in the city. And this is one of the coolest benefits I've had so far as a homeschooler, being that close to the city and being able to go to this event. So they have been doing these kinds of education days for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, she said that they hosted Weather Education Day at Turner Field for as long as she can remember, and just recently they brought that back. So what we went to was Science Education Day, but she said they also do Weather Education Day, and it all depends on when the Braves are at home, because obviously they're not going to do that there when it's an away game. So she said that it just depends on the Braves schedule and when the day games occur in relation to the school calendars, because you obviously also don't want to do it when school's on break. So this year, we're fortunate to have the Science Education Day that we had in the spring, and they're going to have the Weather Education Day in the fall. So it was just really cool to learn about those opportunities.
Absolutely. And so let's give people kind of the flow of the day that we got to experience.
Sure.
We got there, I think we remember that it started at 9:45, something like that.
Yeah, and gates opened, I think, at 8:30.
So what was really cool was when we got there, because you kind of needed to get there early and get settled, but then there was going to be this sitting and waiting around in your seats for a while. And they had us positioned really nicely behind the home team dugout right there at the third base line. And they were so good at entertaining the kids while we waited.
Oh, yeah. They had cool things on the Jumbotron where they would filter your face, and they had the little games that would come up here and there. So it kind of kept the kids engaged and not focused on, why are we sitting here? But you did want to kind of get there early because we were one of the first to be able to go in. And admittedly, we thought that we would be able to kind of walk around the stadium beforehand, which was not the case, but that's fine. But we got there early, and so we ended up being on the second row. We were right there in the front, and obviously the later you got there, the further back, because you couldn't just sit anywhere you wanted. They kind of policed, where you sat to make sure that all the seats were full.
Yeah, we probably got there about 20 minutes after you, and we were at the very front of the next section behind y'all, kind of almost directly behind you guys. So yeah, we got there, we got settled, we had music playing, and just kind of hanging out and seeing the crowd. And then we had about an hour of science education.
From the science machine, who it was so cool to watch. He was so engaging and just interacted with the kids so well, and he had them come up for certain, experiments, and he would let them help him. But it wasn't like he's just gonna do this experiment and we're all just like, "Wow, how'd he do that?" I really liked how he followed up and explained the science behind what he just did and how it happened.
Yeah, he has a real knack for both entertaining and educating kids at the same time. He he has a really
Yeah.
big personality, like a full-on character, kind of like Bill Nye the Science Guy meets like almost a cartoon character, which
Yeah.
Kayla, you told me that he actually has a cartoon. Is that right?
He does. Yes, he does have a cartoon, that he put out, and it's the first cartoon with, like, it telling the history of an African American
So
scientist.
cool.
He actually has a lot of really cool programming. He also has a book, and you can find him. He's at Science for Every One, and one is the number one. You can find him on all the socials at that handle. And then, of course, he has a website and he has a lot of really cool materials. And if you follow him on like Instagram, you can see where he's going and just the shows that he's putting on. It's just really neat what he does, and I think, we've talked offline, one of the things that we thought was really cool when he would say a big word, he would make it fun and, like, sing-songy or space out the syllables and have the kids
That
repeat
was probably
it.
my
So
favorite
it
thing
would
he did.
Yeah, it was really cute.
Yeah, he just really seemed to understand that, like, for kids to retain any of this scientific information in this setting, it was gonna have to be fun and he was gonna have to interact with them, not just, like, do all of it for them. So, like you said, he would get volunteers and they would come up, and it was
Yeah.
almost like it almost felt like he was doing magic tricks. So he
Yes.
would kind of be like, "Watch this. This is gonna blow your mind." And then he would do the thing and they would all be like, "Whoa, how, what?" And then he would explain to them the science behind what he had just done, why it worked that way. And it just was super engaging, interactive, and really fun to watch the kids be wowed and be interested in science. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is the gift of homeschooling is not that you are teaching your child every single thing they're going to learn between now and their graduation, and that you have to be the teacher of every single thing. It's that you get to choose who is teaching
Right.
them. And on this day, we chose for them to have this amazing science lesson. And guess what? I didn't have to do any of it.
Right. Right, and the crazy thing is, like, this guy is legit. I mean, he's been doing this for 20 years, like, he is, does stuff with St. Jude's, he is obviously Truist Park's, go-to person, he does the Georgia Science Olympiad at Kennesaw State, and you with your ticket, you got the ticket to see his program, you got the game ticket, and you got a voucher for a hot dog, a bag of chips, and a bottle of water for $15,
And the
which
game.
yeah, I mean, that is insane because it's hard to find game tickets alone for $15. And yes, our seats were, in the
Yes, we just
nosebleeds,
talked
but
about where
that's
we sat for the
fine.
science program, which was fantastic seating, not where we
Right.
sat for the game. So
Not where we sat for the
we'll tell
game.
you about how we had to, not how we had to move, but about our move and like where we watched the game from, because we were not right there at the third base line behind the dugout for that.
Right.
But it was a really screaming deal because what
Yeah,
he did, I think I would pay more than 15 for that science education.
for sure.
And
For
all the cool
sure.
things he did, all of the ways that he wowed those kids. So, he did a lot of really cool experiments. He did one where he poured water in a cup and then he like held the cup of water upside down over someone's head and everyone thought water was gonna come out, but it didn't. But the ones that I think most of the kids thought were coolest, he kinda saved towards the end.
Sure.
So he did one where he used a leaf blower and he had a beach ball and he was holding the beach ball aloft with the power that was coming out of the leaf blower. And we've talked before about that one was really cool because I feel like I could recreate that at home and we could talk
Yeah.
about that some more. And he talked to the kids
Yeah.
about lift and how it related to airplanes and flight. And I feel like that, and then he kept using bigger balls and having to get out bigger leaf blowers every single time because he would show them how that larger ball now all of a sudden couldn't stay up. But when he got the bigger leaf
Right.
blower, it could. But we've talked about, I could recreate that. We could go back to that
Yeah.
again and again. And then he did some things that I probably can't recreate.
I was about to say, the coolest thing for me was when he had the drum and he, like, put some kind of fog or whatever smoke into it, and then he beat on one side of the drum, and the smoke came out in perfect circles, and it was so
It was really
cool,
cool.
and, I mean, that was also fun, was hearing the adults being wowed as well. You know, science was never my jam. It was my worst subject in school, and I was like, "Man, if I'd have had exposure to something like this, like, I might feel a little different about I might have felt a little different about science." And so I love that my kids are getting exposed to that, and an extra little special touch for us was that my husband got to go.
Yes.
And again, that's one of the things that I think made this event beautiful for homeschoolers specifically is there were so many
Yes.
families. It wasn't just our homeschool group, you know, a couple of us adults took the big group. No, it was moms and dads sitting with their family unit. And it wasn't just our group that did it that way. Our friends that we saw, their whole family was there getting to experience this together. And, you know, yes, my husband has a full time job, but when he found out we were going, he was like, oh, I'm going to take the day off so that I can go do this thing with you guys. And it was just a really, really cool family outing. And then, you know, we got to go enjoy this thing that we all love. We love baseball, our kids play ball. And we got to go enjoy this thing as a family, which I thought was really cool. And when I was chatting with the folks at the Braves, just getting some more info about this, one of the questions I asked them was, what if a homeschool family doesn't have a group? What if they're not a part of a co-op or a community, but they wanted to come to this
Great
event? Is
question.
there a
Yeah.
yeah, because, you know, I see so many people in groups, you know, online just saying like, "Hey, we're in a super rural community or we're in a city where homeschoolers are scarce and we don't have community." And so I just wanted to know, how could those folks participate? Amazingly, there is no ticket minimum. So if your family of 4 just wants to attend this, you can buy tickets and
That's
go.
huge because there's so many really cool homeschool field trips, but so many of them require a minimum head count. And that's just because the places are used to working with schools. And so they like design their
Sure.
program for like 25 kids because that's like the average size of a class or whatever. But that you can just say, my family's coming to this because that was a really
Right.
special aspect of this. My husband also was able to come. He took the day off work and we all went and it was our son's first time at the Major League Baseball stadium. So we got to experience that together as a family, but we also got to do this science thing together as a family, which, you know, my husband is super engaged and excited about the homeschooling, but he works full time. And so he doesn't get
Right.
to sit and do the things. He's usually hearing about them at the dinner table rather than being sitting right there with us in the action. And then what was extra sweet was it wasn't just a family affair on our part, but they're a family unit too doing these science presentations. His wife was the
Yes.
photographer and
So
he
sweet.
talked about their kids and you just really got that feeling of this is a family that cares about kids loving science and they're here for families to
Yeah.
engage. And it was really special. And it was, again, I would have paid the $15 to drive the hour, sit and listen to
Yeah.
the program and watch and engage and then leave. That's not what we did. But it would have been
Right.
worth it if that's all it was. But like you said, we also got to have the game. You could get lunch and
Yep.
we got to experience the ballpark. So in between the science program, when that wrapped up, after he did the really cool smoke ring demo, that was my son's favorite.
It was my favorite too.
After that, we had about an hour in the park before the game started.
Mhm.
So, you know, people were starting to trickle in, but it wasn't crowded yet. We had a chance to go find our seats, which were all up in the upper deck. And that's my favorite place to sit, anyways, for a baseball game. So I didn't mind it.
I didn't mind it with the kids because They had that plexiglass barrier thing, which made me feel a little safer because I'm not scared of heights, but I'm just a
I
little like,
am.
yeah, I get nervous with the
Yep.
kids. And so I liked that. But the other benefit of being up there is it was shaded for the most part where
It
we
was
were.
shaded, and it was a day that
And
we weren't sure if rain was gonna come in. Rain actually did come
yeah,
in,
it
just, like,
did.
right after the game ended, but we weren't sure if we were gonna get rained on, and it did have shade, and it's also nice, the whole stadium is really it's because it's new, it's all really nice, but it's also
Yeah.
there's a lot going on all the time, and it's kinda nice being up
Yeah.
above where you can take it all in, especially for the kids, not getting too overstimulated, and
Yeah.
it was nice because we sat together as a group, again, with that same group of families that had come all from where
Yeah.
we live. So we sat there together and it was just nice to have that space to our group, and the kids kind of were able to, like,
Yeah.
sit with their friends or move around, and we didn't have to worry too much about are we bothering anyone else or getting,
Right.
standing up and
Right.
sitting down and all of that.
But it's a cool park in general, for the kids, especially my son, he got antsy. I mean, he plays ball, he likes it, but nothing's gonna hold
9
his
innings.
attention that long. So I took him for a little walk and we came up upon the drummer. So for the Braves, we have this giant drum, and there's a guy that stands up on a ladder and beats on the drum for special things that happen. And so we passed by that, and I asked the guy, I said, "Hey, can you come down just a few steps? And if my son stands here, can he take a picture with you?" And he was like, "Absolutely." And then he handed my son the drumsticks, which was, I mean, way cooler for me than for my son, but it was just really sweet. And then there's a new section sponsored by Children's Healthcare of Atlanta down on the main area, and it's just this massive kids park. They've got a mini baseball field, and they've got workers down there who will pitch the ball to the kids, let them hit and run some bases. They've got food trucks. One was like food and the other was treats. I think it was snow cones. They have a mini version of the drum that the kids can go beat on. They have like a little dance neon room with music and kind of stroby lights. And I think they had a life size Connect 4 and a life size Jenga, but it was there were picnic tables for the parents to sit at. And I felt like just the way it was arranged, you could feel confident sitting and watching your kid because it was enclosed. And you could anywhere you sat, you could see the whole area. So I just thought that was a really cool thing. And of course, they had TVs up everywhere. So, if you're a parent, you can still
Right,
watch
you're
the
not missing
game
anything.
and you can still hear the game. So that was just a really cool experience. And what I'm really excited about is, okay, we have this under our belt. We know what to expect. And the weather education day, while science is not my jam, I am a little bit of a
Oh,
weather
are
nerd.
you? I didn't know that
And
about you.
I am a little bit. I really love it. And my oldest also is super into weather and, the phenomena of like nature and how it acts. She recently went on a kick where she was all about tsunamis. Why did they happen? Where do they happen? What causes them? And so we were screening a lot of tsunami documentaries to find one that was okay for her to watch. But I'm really excited, one, just to see what the education part is, because it won't be the
Okay,
science
that was my
machine,
question, if it
obviously.
was gonna be the science machine again.
From what I gathered from the sweet lady I talked to at the Braves, I think he's only contracted for their
Okay.
science education days for like the kind of, I don't know, at a lot of camps. My kids have recently started getting into camps and you can choose your track times, and wacky science has been a trend at several camps as a track time that you can choose. And so I feel like he's kind of in that
Okay.
lane, like wacky science, like your experiments and stuff like that. So I will be very interested to see what weather education
Yes.
day, and I didn't ask because I don't
Yeah,
want to know.
let's go be surprised and, like,
Yeah,
experience it. Yeah.
I want it to be a surprise. I don't wanna, like, look up who it is, but what I am excited about is we know what to expect as far as the park
Yes.
experience and the game experience, because we had to leave earlier than we probably would have had I not been teaching. I was teaching a class at church on Wednesday nights, and that game just happened to be on a Wednesday. But I would love to make it just a full-on family experience, maybe even stay down there in the
Yeah.
area and come down, do the game and the weather education day, and then spend the night, have some time to just explore the
Yeah.
battery, because the battery is a lot of
It
fun
is.
too.
We ended up exploring that day because my son also did not want to sit through 9 innings. And here's where I learned what I would do differently because we have a ton of dietary restrictions. And so I thought, well, we'll get a snack in between the science program and the game because this was a midday game start. I think it was like a 12:30 first pitch,
It was 12:15.
12:15 first pitch. So right, right at lunchtime, but I wasn't thinking that we were gonna eat lunch in the ballpark. So we had a snack and then we stayed through about 2 innings and then we went out into the Battery and went to one of the restaurants there that I used to eat at and knew could accommodate all of our dietary needs. But the cool thing about hanging out in the Battery is it's all built there around the stadium, and so
Yeah.
the game was on all the TVs there too, and we could still even hear people cheering from the stadium. So we went and got lunch
Yeah.
and we got ice cream and kind of beat the rush out of the parking decks. But it's so nice having been because I can think through a little bit better. What would I do differently next time? And I think I would look up like what are their rules about bringing in food and snacks. Just better think through the flow for our day so that we didn't end up with like someone hungry in the middle of the second inning.
Right.
But it is nice knowing now what we know and being able to think about how that looks just next time, but also like as our kids grow. Like it could be a really cool
Sure.
thing to go back to year after year. I love those kinds of things where it becomes almost like a tradition for your family
Yeah.
and you go back each year and you can really see the growth of your kid from
Mhm.
year to year and how they maybe interacted with the science or what they think of the baseball game as they get older. So it's just a really cool
Right.
thing. I love that they offer it twice a year. So the one we went to was at the
Yep.
very beginning of the baseball season. And tell us a little bit more about the Weather Education Day in 2025.
So this year, 2025, the Weather Education Day is going to be on September 24th. It's another 12:15 game, and they're playing the Washington Nationals, which I'm super excited about because I have family that lives up there. And so when I go up there, there's all the national stuff, and we've been to a Nationals game, and it's just really cool. So I would imagine it's going to be the same schedule as far as like gates open at 8:30. And I wanted to touch on you said, talked about y'all going to eat at the
Mhm.
Battery. One of the cool things is you can park in the red deck. And then if you eat in the Battery, they will validate your parking. So you're going to eat anyway. You're going to spend that money anyway. So you might as well park in the red deck, save yourself some time and walking distance, and then, eat something and get your parking validated. And so with your ticket to the game or with your ticket to the Science Education Day, that one ticket is for
Right.
both events. So once you scan in to go in for the Science Education Day, you're in the
That's a
park.
very good thing to mention because we had thought with that hour, our first thought when we were
Yeah.
planning out our days was we had thought leave after the Science Education Day, go get lunch in the Battery, get the parking validated, come back into the stadium. And that did not work out.
And there's two places where you can enter a restaurant that is also accessible from outside the Battery. So you can go sit, eat, and still get your parking validated, which is lovely. But if that's not your jam, if you do have the food sensitivities or allergies or dietary restrictions, you can bring food into Truist Park. But here is what they say on their
Okay.
website. Food items must be contained within a clear gallon-sized plastic bag, and you can also bring one sealed bottle of water per ticket. So this is not your emotional support water. This is a water bottle. And so for those of you who don't know why we're laughing, I am never found without my tumbler. I have a hydro jug that never leaves my side. And so my friends call it my emotional
So
support
funny.
water. So I can't bring that in. You cannot bring any coolers. So you just got to be cool with whatever you've got. It can't be something that has to be kept cold, and you can't bring anything
In the
larger than the
gallon
gallon
bag.
plastic
That
bag.
makes sense.
But we can fit some good stuff in a gallon plastic
String
bag, you know what I'm
cheese,
saying?
a couple peanut butter and
Yeah.
jelly sandwiches made with some of Kayla's homemade bread. You're all set. You're all set, at least to get you through that like wave of hunger. And then, maybe
Yeah.
you go get an early dinner out in the Battery and get that parking validated and then head out either to go home, like we talked about, or
Yeah.
even make a whole like family night of it and stay over.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is, I mean, I personally would prefer to have that little snack in the park and then go out into the Battery because of just the endless amount of options that are out there. And they even have this massive jumbotron and like a lawn you can sit
Yes.
on, so you can still feel like you're immersed in the game, you
And
know?
also out there, they have a really cool water fountain.
Yes.
Once we got there, I had forgotten to bring wet, swim stuff for my son because he would have loved to do that. It's actually just a
Mhm.
really fun space to go hang out. It's like a really nice family area. It's a cool space to
Yeah.
hang out on game day if you don't have a ticket and you can watch the
Yep.
game. Or even when they're out of town or it's the off season, it's still just like a
Mhm.
pretty and fun outdoor space that you can go and feel, relatively safe with your kids running around on the green area because it's pretty contained. But there are so many options for eating there and they are delicious.
Yeah, and I think that if I remember correctly, I think that when they're playing away, those games are still up on that
Oh,
big
cool.
jumbotron, so you can still kinda be
Yeah.
there, and then, of course, eat all the delicious food, and the place I think you're talking about is, is it called Superica now?
That's where
Yeah. So it used to be called El
yes.
Felix, and, oh my gosh, their food is
It's so
so
good. So
good.
we were reminiscing about how we both used to go to the Battery and to Truist pre-kids, and then for you when your daughter was really, really young. And it was kind of fun to go back and do some of the things that my husband and I used to do before our son
Yeah.
was born and, like, now have our son with us. So we went and ate at Superica, and their menu hasn't changed. I got to, like,
So
have these
good.
things that I was like, "Oh my gosh, I used to come here all the time and order this same thing over and over." And then we also went and had Jenny's ice cream, which is like a
Mm,
sweet memory for my husband and I, and it's fun to weave our son into that now. And it was a really good family day. And it was
yeah.
cool that we got to do that, have a family day at the ballpark, but woven into this beautiful homeschool community that we're part of, and just feeling really lifted up and supported in this educational pathway that we've chosen for our family. And look at this cool
Yeah.
thing that I think sometimes we can feel like the really cool, fun presenters, they go to schools,
Mhm.
but how do I get to go see them? And I am so thankful to the Braves and to the Science Machine for this partnership that they have, and to the Braves for committing to do these kinds of things for kids and making them open and available to homeschool families in addition to the school groups. I'm so grateful to them.
Yeah, and I think and I get feedback from people who either don't have kids or just have never even entertained what homeschooling looks like, and it's almost like they feel sorry for my
Right.
kids for what they're missing out on, and then I list all these things that we get to do, and I'm like, "Man, my kids didn't miss out on this. They were there exactly with all the other school kids. They got this opportunity as well." And I think we just have to look for those opportunities, and I know that that is part of the heart of why you and I wanted to start
Absolutely.
this, was to put this stuff out there so that people will know that this is going on and this is available to you, because I even think, you know, okay, you take somebody in a surrounding state, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee. Okay, if it's me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go now look at the Chattanooga Lookouts, or, look at whatever our baseball team is to see if they offer something like this. And you know what? If they don't, it's close enough. Maybe we make a trip of it. Maybe we make an overnight of it with our family or with a group of homeschool friends. Like, it's very accessible, I
Yes.
think, to,
Yes, it's right. It's, right off the interstate. So if you're traveling in from an hour or two away, then it's not hard to access and get to. It's not like it's, like deep in the heart of the city. It's right next to the interstate, right where two
yeah,
interstates pass by each other. And the other thing to think about too is if you're listening to this and you're thinking, that's so cool. I wish my local sports team, whether it's hockey or football, whatever it may be, I wish they did that. And you go and you look and they're not, you could be the one to approach them.
yeah,
And here's a model, you could look at the Braves model and say, "Well, the Atlanta Braves are doing something. Is there any way that you could offer something like this too?" But I mean, I can't imagine that the Atlanta Braves are the only major league sports team or even minor league sports team that offers these kinds of things.
sure.
Because I know a lot of the other, like the minor league baseball teams in our area do homeschool nights, which is not
Yeah,
necessarily with the educational programming, but if there's that foundation even already where they're doing a homeschool night or an education day, like how can you get involved and help build that? And so what we really want to do is we want to highlight all the cool things that are happening for homeschoolers in the Southeast, but also inspire more cool
yeah.
things.
Yeah, because you don't need to reinvent the
Right.
wheel, right? Like, this stuff is already happening, and you take this model, and maybe you even reach out to the Science Machine on Instagram or through his email address and say, "Hey, can you come to Alabama? I mean, he travels all
Yes.
over. So, you have a format, you have a presenter that you can reach out to. That's what we need to be doing is collaborating and helping each other out. This shouldn't be this grueling work of, we're again trying to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to. It's already
Right.
been
There's cool
done.
stuff happening. And then how do we just build on that momentum that's already there and
Yeah,
keep it going and grow it and make it right for our communities and feel excited and inspired instead of this sense of my kid might be missing out or this sense of it's too
right.
much work. Like, it's not too much work. There's already a blueprint. Let's just keep building them for our kids.
Right, right. And hopefully, if you're listening and your community does do something like this, like we would love to know about it because I would love to know. I mean, I'd be willing to drive to
Yes.
Tennessee for something like this just for a new experience.
You can invite us to all kinds of things that you're doing in your homeschool communities, and we'll come check them out and put them on the podcast. And if they're too far for us to come check out, then maybe we invite you to come talk about what you're
Yeah,
doing in your community. And if you're not sure of how to find those things, then we just encourage you to keep listening, but also always reach out to us. You can send us an email if there's something cool happening. You can send us an email if you're trying to find cool things, or maybe there's something really cool happening in your community and you're a little nervous to go out and try it and you want us to do the
yeah.
research for you and maybe interview that person and then you get to hear all about it and hear, okay, yeah, I do think I'll go try that out.
Yeah. Well, and I think we have this preconceived notion that people are gonna be weird when we say like, "Oh, we're with a homeschool group," or "We're a homeschool family." But I had just the loveliest conversations with the folks at the Braves, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we get homeschool families all the time. Like, this is nothing big." And so I think that's what's really cool about having these conversations in a public platform is to say, "Hey, this is becoming very mainstream now, and these event coordinators and organizers, they're not surprised by this. In fact, they welcome
They welcome
it."
it and I think they want to hear from us what's working and what's not so that
Yeah.
they can make it great. And the other thing I think is that's really important to state is if you were to approach your major league hockey team in your community and they said no, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because nothing changes, right? So if you don't have any programming like this now and you approach someone and you ask them for it and they say no, well, then it's the status quo. You still don't have the programming, but it's not
Right.
going to be there if nobody ever brings it up or asks. And so why not
Right.
take that risk? The worst thing that happens is you get a no and then you just move on and you keep looking for
Yeah.
other cool stuff because there's so much cool
Oh.
stuff happening for homeschoolers and the people who are putting it on, they really do just want to make it great.
Well, and I think too, there's so many cool things happening, period. Like that is the complete sentence, period. Because like this science education day, this weather education day, they're not specific for
Right.
homeschoolers, but we can infuse our homeschool day, our homeschool year with these experience because they exist for
Yes.
kids.
And it's great because then we get to go and represent homeschooling and say,
Yeah.
look at all these different families that are homeschooling and how
Yeah.
different and how unique and how wonderful, but maybe not also the stereotype that people have in their
Right.
head of all of us. And so it's just a great opportunity all around. So, Kayla, if a family is listening and they want to put together a group for either whether it's it's a quick turnaround from when we're airing this to when the weather day is, but if they want to join in weather day or be looking towards the spring for education day, how does either someone who's trying to take a group or how does a single family get involved?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so by the time this episode comes out, the likelihood will be that Weather Education Day is full because I did ask her how soon do we need to buy tickets, and she said, "Well, school's out right now, so we do have a little bit of time, but once school gets back in session in August, we fill up pretty
Good
quick."
to know. Okay.
So, we're gonna go ahead and get our stuff handled before school gets back in so we know our spots are secure. However, she did say that they typically announce the spring education date in early to
Okay.
mid-November once the individual game tickets go on sale. And we will put her email in the show
Super.
notes. But Isabel de Armas is the sweet lady that handles all of the education days. She's who our friend who coordinated this event was messaging with. So she is the one that you would just shoot her an email and say, "Hey, I want to purchase these tickets." Or if you don't want to go through her, you can purchase them directly from, if you're just a family of however many, you can purchase them directly from the Braves website once those dates are released. And we'll try to remember to do a little update blurb once those dates are released, just to remind you, like, hey, go check it out if this is something that you're interested in. So, two ways. You can email Isabel or you can just buy them directly from the website, whatever is easiest for you.
Awesome. I love it. And I can't wait. Can't wait to go to the weather day and see what that's all like, see what else we learn about this. And I'm sure we will come share our experience with you about weather day at the Atlanta Braves once we have gone and done it.
So, if you could give a family that wants to go 3 pieces of advice to make their time there super successful, what would your 3 pieces of advice be?
My 3 pieces of advice would be to bring some heartier snacks than what we brought, to bring the change of swim clothes so that if the weather
Mhm.
is right, you can do some of the splash pad, and to be ready to be adaptable. Because even though there was a lot of structure to this day, we needed to be able to pivot. We had an idea in our head and it didn't quite go that way. And so it was good to be ready to pivot. How about you? What would your three
Yeah.
pieces of advice be?
I would definitely say bring the food. Take advantage of that clear plastic gallon bag. They did not, I'm assuming it didn't say clear plastic gallon bags, plural. So I'm assuming each person
One.
gets one. And I would take advantage of that even if you have a 2-year-old. You're gonna make a bag for that 2-year-old. And I would just because, 1, we are on a budget, we don't wanna spend a whole bunch of money in the park, but 2, again, we also have some dietary needs. There's not a whole lot for us inside the park. So I would definitely say bringing that food and water because, again, we are all carrying our emotional support waters, so we did not bring any in, and my children were thirsty, and when the program ends at 10:45. The concession stands aren't open. They don't open until 11.
No, which I didn't know
So,
either.
yes, so we still had to wait, and my poor kiddos were so thirsty. And so I would definitely just do that for the next time. So that would be my first piece of advice was take advantage of that. My second would be to clear the day because I felt the stress of watching the clock, not just seeing how we were feeling. I was watching the time because I was so nervous about getting back and getting, turning over my wardrobe and my mind into, time to go teach.
Yes.
And I felt like that took away a little bit of just the fun and relaxation of it. So I would definitely say, even if you don't plan to stay the night, just plan that's what you're
Yeah.
doing today.
And nothing else.
You
Don't
know?
try to squeeze anything else in
Yeah.
there.
No, so you can stay as long or as short as you want, and it's totally fine. And then 3, I would say definitely plan to park in the red deck and eat at the Battery because we did not eat at the Battery just because we had to get home, and I'm just so sad that we missed out because the food is just so good.
Well, and like you said, you're
And
gonna
I'm such a
pay. You're gonna
foodie.
pay either way. So would
Yeah.
you rather pay for a delicious meal or would you rather pay that you were parked all day?
Right, right. And so that would have been the better deal, and also I just really love the
Yeah.
food.
And where we
So
we
those
live an
would
hour
be
away, and so, like, it felt special, like,
right.
it feels like a special, fun
Yeah.
city meal when you get to go eat
Yeah.
there.
So I'm excited and for me, it's going to feel like a redo come September. And then again, of course, when we do it in the spring, okay, I'm going to get it right this time. I'm going to make the most out of this experience. And as our kids get older, are really able to sit longer and watch the game, our family will want to then we'll pay the $15 for that package, but then we probably also will just pay for a little bit
Seats where
better
you want them, yeah.
seats. Yeah, because we really like the Chop House seats because they have the high tops and you've got the table in front of you and there's a server.
And there were
And
people in our
those are
group who
just
I think did buy
sure.
their tickets of where their family likes to sit. So, like, you absolutely
Yeah.
could do that, and that would, 1, give you a little bit more flexibility, but
Yeah.
2, let you have the baseball experience that if you
Yeah.
know and love a baseball experience, let you have the one that you know and love.
But that is in our distant future because our kids are still too young to be expected. Now, I will say my oldest, she would have sat there the whole time because she had her friends with her. So maybe if we sat in other seats, she might be the one who was getting antsy. But my son was just like, "What are we doing here?" But he loved the science
Yes.
part.
Yeah,
So
and
those
and a good reminder too that for the ones who get squirmy, there is that kids area. We
oh,
didn't
yeah.
touch on, there's a whole Hall of Fame baseball history
Oh,
area.
so
I
cool.
know you walked your son through it. We walked our son through it on our way out actually, and you can see the rings and the trophies, and you can learn yeah, and all
Jerseys.
about, when they started in Boston and their move to Atlanta. So, and I think most major league stadiums have these kinds of areas too, where,
Mhm.
either for the kids or where you can touch on the history. And it's almost like a museum within the ballpark. And so that's also educational and a great way to help with the squirmy kids, somewhere to go see
Yeah.
and do.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just a really cool experience, and I'm so glad that we did it, and I just can't wait to do it again. I think it's gonna be so
I
much
can't wait to do
fun.
it again. And then I can't wait to
And
talk to you about it here.
yes, yes. Yeah, and I feel like our experience is gonna be marginally different every single
Absolutely.
time. So, I think we'll probably twice a year be able to chit chat about what we did. And, it'd be really fun too to maybe bring in other people.
Absolutely. We like to wrap up each episode talking about a homeschooling win. We want to celebrate, we want to highlight the highs of homeschooling. So, Kayla, from our time at Truist Stadium with the Braves and the Science Machine on Education Day, did you have a homeschooling win that day?
Yeah, I think my homeschooling win that day was that we got to do it as a family because my husband being in the line of work that he's in, we miss out on a lot of that cuz he travels a lot. And so while he is engaged in the sense that he wants to know what they're learning and how school's going, he rarely gets to do it with us. And so it was just a win that like, hey, we just homeschooled as a family today and we don't often get to do
Yeah.
that.
And it was sweet as someone in your community who sees how often he's not able to be there with y'all. It was really sweet to be able to see you all doing that as a family.
Mm,
That was wonderful.
thanks.
Kayla, where can the people find you?
They can find me at Scratch Made Simple on all the things. And where can they
You
find
can
you?
find me at Recreating Camp and recreatingcamp.com. And you can find us at Homeschooling Down South on all the socials. And if you, as we mentioned earlier, have any kind of program that you want to share with us that we could come check out or we could interview somebody, you can email us at hello@homeschoolingdownsouth.com.
And we'll see y'all next week. If you enjoyed this episode, we would be so thrilled if you would go to Spotify and leave us a 5-star rating. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast, we would love a 5-star rating and review. It really helps us get the word out and make sure that all of our homeschool families know what's going on here in the Southeast. Thanks, y'all.